Good Wednesday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to the Southern Oregon Weather Midweek Update. We'll start with a recap of our rain and snow totals from the most recent system that just moved through, and then we'll talk about our weekend weather outlook. We'll conclude by discussing some long-range model trends. In particular, models have been trending warmer, especially for the week 2 period, so I want to discuss why they're doing that. So first, let's talk about how much snow the mountains received from this last system. I was honestly a little bit skeptical because the system was looking like it would be very similar to the previous system that just moved through about a week ago. But actually, snowfall amounts exceeded my expectations. It looks like Crater Lake picked up around a foot of settled snow depth, so I'd expect maybe 13 or 14 inches fell there. And Big Red Mountain in the Siskiyous picked up about 5 inches of settled snow depth. So I'd expect maybe 6 or maybe 7 inches fell there. Up on Mount Ashland today, when I was skiing, it felt like there was maybe 5 inches of new snow toward the summit and lesser amounts lower down. Our forecast was calling for about 3 to 4 inches for the Siskiyous and 8 to 10 inches for the Southern Oregon Cascades. So it looks like the storm overproduced by a couple inches, so that's a welcome refresh for those of you who are looking to get out of the house and practice some recreation and exercise where you can maintain social distancing. So the K-Max on top of Mount Ashland this afternoon shows showers continuing in the wake of our storm system that just moved through. These are continuing to drop locally heavy rain and snow showers across the area, but this is a typical springtime pattern where we see these convective cells move across the area, and generally precipitation is pretty scattered. It's not going to be steady anywhere. You might get a shower moving through for half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, and then it'll clear out. So the reason why we're continuing to see these showers this afternoon is because we still have this upper level trough sitting over us here. You see the ridge building off to the south and east. And that trough is going to hang around for the next couple of days. Here the Weather Channel is showing showers for today, and then some clearing on Thursday and Friday before we see our next weather maker arrive for the weekend. So here's a look at that weather maker on the GFS, the American model. We see showers starting around Friday afternoon and lingering until Monday night. So it looks like actually there are a couple of disturbances. The first one moves through early in the weekend, and the second one moves through right after that, a little bit later in the weekend. But this should keep some showers going, especially over the mountains for the weekend. Here's the same thing on the Canadian model, the CMC, also showing kind of a 1-2 punch of showers. First batch of showers arriving Friday night into early Saturday, and the second batch of showers arriving looks like Sunday into Sunday night. So beyond our weekend system, there is considerable uncertainty, and the models are struggling to really get a handle on what the pattern is going to look like. So here are the 3 main ensembles for a week from today. So early on Wednesday morning, April 1st, actually April Fool's Day. And the models definitely are fooling with us because here in the upper right-hand corner, the EPS, the European ensemble, is showing a pretty strong ridge building over the southwest, forcing the storm track pretty well to our north. The GEFS, meanwhile, is showing that this trough over British Columbia is able to dig a little bit farther south, and it builds the ridge more over the Four Corners region. The Canadian ensemble has an idea that's a little more similar to the American ensemble. So this is a tough pattern because the EPS is generally considered to be more reliable, and there are maybe a couple indications that it is showing a more accurate scenario for a week from today. But regardless, all of these models are showing a slightly warmer and drier pattern for our area than we're experiencing currently. Even if this trough is able to dig reasonably far south, the main storm track will still be to our north after this weekend system moves through. Here we see the models struggling even more by day 10. This is now very early Saturday morning, April 4th. So not this coming Saturday, but the Saturday after that. And they're kind of all over the place. The Canadian ensemble in the upper right here is showing ridging over the eastern United States, maybe some troughing over the west, not a real strong signal. But the American and European ensembles are both showing troughing along the eastern seaboard, and not really a strong signal for what's happening along the west coast. So, since the models aren't giving us a lot of consistent information, can we look at our teleconnections to get a better idea of what's going to happen? Well, we know the PNA is going to rise. That's been forecasted for several days now on the GEFS. So it's a pretty good bet that that's going to happen. So that's less of a signal for troughing and storminess along the west coast. We also know that our atmospheric angular momentum, basically a measure of the jet stream, those upper level winds that steer weather patterns around the world, that's supposed to move from negative into positive territory. And here are the correlations at 500 millibars in March with the AAM. So basically, if the AAM is positive, that means we're going to see positive geopotential heights. So ridging, meaning warmer and dry weather over the Pacific Northwest. Meanwhile, a positive AAM at this time of year favors troughing along the eastern seaboard. So this is an indication, along with the rising PNA, that we could be in for some warmer and drier times to start April. A final clue comes from the MJO. Now, different models are showing different solutions for the MJ over the next 10 to 15 days, and I think that's why there's so much inconsistency in the models. But the GEFS, the American Ensemble, is showing a pretty strong MJO rotation all the way from phases 3 and 4 into phases 7 and 8. And some of these phases are quite warm for the west coast, and others are a little bit cooler. So here's phase 3, the phase we're in now. You'll see some cool signals, especially for California. Lines up reasonably well with what we're experiencing right now as that trough digs farther south. See, phase 4 is a little bit warm. Looks like the MJO should progress through that phase fairly quickly and then head into phases 5 and 6. There is some slightly cooler signals for the northern part of the United States. But then look at phases 7 and 8. There's quite a bit of warming in the southwest, and phase 8 is pretty warm across much of the country. And so this is also an indication that we could be anticipating some warmer and drier conditions going into April. Here is the day 16 forecast on both the American Ensemble and the Canadian, and by this time, interestingly, there's a little bit more agreement. There's not so much agreement in the models in the midterm, the mid-range, but in the long range here, at the very end of their forecast range, they come into somewhat better agreement with a more consistent signal for ridging somewhere in the western United States and troughing trying to develop somewhere along the east. So, what does all this mean? First, we can expect some more rain and snow showers to continue this weekend. It does look like maybe additional unsettled weather is possible next week, but it's less likely because most models are forecasting that trough to retreat northward into Washington and British Columbia. And it looks like that could be the start of a warmer and drier trend heading out to 10 days and then into our week 2 period. Those warmer MJO phases, the rising PNA, and the positive atmospheric angular momentum, those are all signals that we could see a drier and warmer start to April. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to set your notifications so you can receive that weekend update in a few days. And please leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. If you have anything you would like to see in the forecast or any suggestions, those would be welcome.